Good morning, guys. We'll get started here in just a minute. Hope you guys all having a nice Saturday. I'll try to keep this under an hour. Hey, what's going on, guys? KDK here, kiodiekin. Thanks for joining on this lovely Saturday afternoon. We got a lot to discuss in regards to the new announcements with Arcade1up concerning Blitz primarily. Let me turn this off. Concerning Blitz primarily, but also we're going to talk about Marvel vs. Capcom 2. There were a lot of things that were mentioned in the live stream yesterday. And so just definitely wanted to do a follow-up because there are some points that were missed. There were some things that were avoided. There are some additional concerns that they definitely did avoid yesterday. And the community definitely spoke out in regards to how do they dare promote another item or another cabinet. And they haven't even fixed these units. Remember, supposedly online was supposed to be available for Blitz mid-October. They never gave anybody any type of expectation for online for Marvel vs. Capcom 2. But remember, it's advertised on the box and it's supposed to work. And so I'm just going to try to keep all of my thoughts today concise. There were some clips that I'm missing. I swore up and down that I heard Justin Wong mentioned a few things yesterday. I talked to some other guys that watched the live stream. They heard it too, but apparently I downloaded it and I can't find it. I apologize about that. If I'm really mistaken, definitely apologize about that as well. But primarily, one of the things I definitely remember Justin Wong mentioning yesterday was about the run ahead or speed in terms of emulation for Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Again, I cannot find that clip, but I want to play a quick clip for you guys. This is something that I definitely discussed 3 weeks ago. And so bear with me. Let me go ahead and get this thing started so you guys can see it. Now, I definitely want to bring up another topic here that is very important. And because some of this, well, I'm not going to say that, but I want to show you guys, if you guys are familiar with this, this is called a RetroArch screen where you could go in and change some of your frame rates. Now, some of you have reported who have played NFL Blitz, and we've seen the video say that this game is running 60 frames per second, but it's running kind of fast. So a quick recap, I released this clip. This was a couple of weeks ago in that 2-hour video that I did. You could find this portion of the video around the 50-minute mark. And so what this screen is this allows you to frame skip or actually speed up the emulation of the game. And so I believe, like I said, I heard it yesterday. Justin Wong mentioned something to the effect of run ahead. And that's the phrase you guys should probably look for if you guys can find that. I couldn't find it again. But if they did enable run ahead mode, and this is something I expressed 3 weeks ago, you only turn this feature on if there's deficiencies in your emulation attempt. We see this even in retropie when people would say, hey, here's my new image. I got this game running full speed, but they have run ahead turned on. And what this does is it covers up any deficiencies such as glitches, stuttering in the game. And that's something that should definitely not be. Now, another thing I definitely want to point out is if they're using this, if you guys can see that estimated frame rate right there on the screen where it says 59 hertz, 59 frames per second. If they're measuring that with run ahead turned on, and again, I'm just letting you guys know, because I've already discussed this, but is it the 12-minute mark, Damien? Because I listened to the video and I couldn't find it. Because I know he mentioned something about them turning stuff down or whatever, but he mentioned something about run ahead. But if they have run ahead turned on and they're claiming that they have their games running at 60 frames per second, they're really contradicting themselves. It does not work that way because the frame rate counter is looking at how many frames is being processed through the game. So for example, if I record a video on my cell phone 60 frames per second, if you watch it on YouTube or any type of medium, it's 60 frames. No matter what, whether it's stuttering, whether it's running fast, it's still 60 frames. What this allows you to do with this setting is it speeds up the emulation, hides any deficiencies, hides any stuttering. It's still there, but it just goes by really fast to where your eye really can't perceive it. And if they're calculating 60 frames per second based on this, it's not 60 frames per second. And so that is essentially misleading. Just to give you guys an example, I've done this before. I've gotten Marvel vs. Capcom 2 up to 125 to about 245 frames per second, doing this exact same thing. So that frame rate counter, it's like speeding up a video. So just because you fast forward a video doesn't make it run at 120 frames or 130 frames. So again, I can't find that clip. I remember him saying it. So if you guys have it out there, let me know if you guys can find it. I couldn't hear it again, but just make you guys aware, if that's what they're doing, then this is one of the things that's going on. But there were some things definitely discussed yesterday. Obviously, for those of you who are new to the channel, maybe passing through, this is you just picked up Arcade1up Marvel vs. Capcom 2 or Blitz. Online right now still isn't working. They don't have an estimated time frame as to when it might work. I know a subscriber of mine's sent me an email based from where he got from customer service, and they told him it'll be ready in the next few days or something of that nature, but they didn't have a timeline for Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Now, this is still exhausting your warranty, or I would say more, I mean, they could always extend the warranty, but more or less exhausting your return policy, depending upon what store you got it from. But there were some other things that he did bring up. But before I get into that, I know some of you asked me what was the 6 and the 8. What does that mean on my thumbnail? So if you guys have followed my other social media, I've left comments on other videos, the 6 and the 8 is 6 to 8 months. That is the estimated time frame in which I believe they will have online ready for Marvel vs. Capcom 2. What is that based on? That's based on my years of experience working with other devs in the community, working with the Supreme team, working with Supreme Ultra, and also optimizing this game myself. I understand how these things work, and typically right now, if you guys have heard them say it, they are using the community. They're looking at feedback, comments on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, the Facebook groups, and slowly addressing those issues. So the way it breaks down is, if they turned it on right now, they would have to send everybody or activate the online process, and then of course still addressing the offline errors that they're having. Then they would have to make sure that doesn't break anything. So you figure you give about a month and a half to retrieve information based on that, and then slowly patch that, and then also make sure it doesn't break anything that's currently running right now. Additionally, they would also have to make sure that they can fix new settings. But of course, even what Justin Wong was saying yesterday, they haven't even tested online yet. And that was one of the things that we've been concerned about. I mean, they said they've been testing it, but obviously based upon what they said yesterday, they haven't even tested online yet. And so you figure if they turn online sent you the patch, addressed any issues, took got the troubleshooting data back off of that, fix those issues, you figure another month and a half to 2 months to really make sure that it's working. And I'm not talking about flipping on a switch, making sure that it's working. I'm talking about with this thing running to perfection. You're looking at an estimated time frame between 6 to 8 months. Now, I've talked to some of the other devs. You guys have known, some of them have been here on the channel, image makers. They're familiar with Flycast and Flycast Dojo. They're not doing anything new that hasn't been presented. The same Flycast and Flycast Dojo you guys could download right now. Try to have it emulated on an Android-based OS, even on your RetroPie or your Pi 4 image or your Pi 4 base, and replicate some of the same issues. And so looking at that, some devs said 8 months or maybe to a year, and then some say probably not at all. And these are experienced devs who you guys have seen their work in the public and in the community. So I'm going to play a few of these clips here. I'm going to stop it here and there. I don't want to play too much of this, but there are some points that I definitely want to address before we get into the rest of this video. But I definitely wanted to give you guys clarity as to what the 6 and the 8 meant based upon the timeline that it would take to get this up and running.
We have seen they are written up, they are being worked on. And some good news is that NFL Blitz, we are currently on an online testing build at this moment. So that means NFL Blitz Online might be coming soon. We want to make sure it's as flawless as it possibly could be, because obviously, some people are going to be on Wi-Fi out there, and we want to make sure that it's even good on.
Well, first of the thing, one of the things that Justin Wong says here is that some of the people is going to be on Wi-Fi. Everybody's going to be on Wi-Fi. That's how they made the cabinet. I think some of the other content creators actually hinted at this as well, is that this was made to run on Wi-Fi, so that's what it should run on. But apparently they're not communicating directly with their customer service, because customer service is telling people something different. So
That, right? We want to make sure that it's good enough for our fans. It runs on 60 FPS, and make sure there's no hiccups when it comes to online. Obviously, after having online, we are still going to work on a lot of the other issues, a lot of bugs out there. We're going to keep updating the machines as we have done, as we have been doing for our other machines as well in the past. For Mars Capcom 2, currently we are working on improving the input lag. Obviously.
now, the one thing that confuses me is, why do they always wait for the public to admit that there's issues or hiccups or stuttering or bugs? They never make these announcements or disclosures prior to the release or even after the first couple of videos. It always comes out after the public, which is being used as guinea pigs or beta testers, to report these issues. But they're highly aware of them, but they only speak out about these things once it's being made public. And I don't know why they do that. They always seem to do this. And then usually the first people, like myself, because I noticed some things even when Kong and a few other guys posted some videos, they never really said anything, but it was just like slowly being put out there where you guys are seeing these glitches.
See some of the professional players or like the hardcore players, they're like, oh, there's input lags, the game is slowing down and everything like that. We know, right? It has been improved a lot when you compare it from the.
Sorry, guys, my mic was on mute. So one of the things that I noticed about this live stream was that, excuse me, one of the things I noticed about this live stream was that Justin Wong appears to have just thrown the other Evo content creators under the bus. He notices, or actually separates, people who've played the game. He said other professional players, because all the guys at Evo, if you guys watch their channel, they said that the game ran fine. And, that's their experience. That's what they said. And, I definitely honor that. But he says that professional players noticed that there were lag with the game and that there was an input delay. And so I wish the question would have been asked as a follow-up is, what system are they using to determine lag input or lag delay? Because if they're playing this on PC or Dreamcast, which, is a CRT monitor if you're using Dreamcast, and then if you're bouncing back over to a PC, probably a monitor that has 1 millisecond or 5 millisecond, and then you try to play or pull off the same combos on their 14 millisecond monitor, you're going to have that millisecond response time delay. Now, it's not lag, but because the monitor isn't able to draw the images on the screen fast enough, you're not going to get a true reading or true value on how the game is going to be played. In order for them to fully accurately test this, they would need to play this on Dreamcast or an arcade machine or possibly PC, just to make sure everything's kosher. And then they would need to take that PCB out of the arcade machine and hook it up to the exact same monitor. That's the only way you could truly tell if the lag input has truly been addressed. And then put it back in the machine and then say, voila, we fixed it. We made sure all the timing is down. So, but that's the only way to truly test it. I hope they're not bouncing back and forth between the other devices and then trying to play it on that BOE monitor.
The first time when we revealed Marvel's Capcom 2 at EVO, people could see kind of like there's like a lot of input lag right there, and it has improved tremendously, and we're trying to improve it more. And by improving it more, we're improving it throughout the whole entire cabinet. So from Marvel's Capcom 2, Marvel's Capcom 1, X-Men Street Fighter, and so forth and so forth, input lag will be lessened, meaning more people will get their combos down, the execution, they won't miss their...
Again, he mentions lag input. He's probably referring to millisecond response time. More than likely, that's what he's referring to, especially if they're depending upon what they're using to test.
Important dashes when it comes to specific characters that they use, right? Because when we improve input lag, this also improves online in the future when we get to start testing on that. So we already have lots of amazing updates and more amazing updates as the time goes on. So just like D-Mac says, just be patient with us. We want to make sure we give you the best experience as possible. We would rather not put a bad online build so everyone can make bad YouTube videos about us, right? That's what it comes down to. But we want to make sure.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit late for that. I mean, this is advertised on the box. It should have actually came ready. And, people are going to try to hold on to this. Most people aren't going to return their unit. And then they're hopeful that the online gets working. But, this was broadcasted yesterday. A lot of people. What's going on, Damien and Rexer? I hope it runs too, because one of the things I was disappointed about was that I know that some of the other guys, you guys are here in the community. I wanted to play with you. I was hoping to get this cabinet with online working, but, myself right now, and I've told a bunch of other buddies to just hold off because most of us already have this game on Xbox. And even now, this morning, past few days, and just quite regularly, you can still play online with PlayStation 3 and also Xbox 360. So there is an online community. So the only value for me to really get something like this would be, obviously the cabinet looks nice. Don't get me wrong. You can mod the buttons, but I would have to mod the monitor, pull that thing out of there. It's 14 milliseconds. But if that online is not ready, there's no value to this game. And if the online isn't ready, let's say by Black Friday, Christmas, things of that nature, what if this thing goes on sale? And I've seen some other comments out there where people are saying like, well, online, the cabinets are fine with Marvel versus Capcom, and Blitz, but what if you overpaid for something and then the cost of this goes down or on sale for like maybe 50 or $100 as part of a Black Friday promotion, and you could have waited and taken advantage of that. And so that's something else that's been, missed out on with this. Let's see if there's a solid Al Lewis comparing this to Xbox 360 version. I'm thinking there's a solid 6 to 9 frame lag. It's that bad. I do have high execution combos. Yeah, we'll really have to see. I haven't seen any comparisons between Xbox 360 with this. We all know Dreamcast is the better version, but Xbox 360 was like the last best release of this game with PS3. I haven't seen too many PS3 videos with this, but we'll check it out. But before I go any further, there is something else I definitely want to show you guys really quickly. Let me pull up. So another question that's been asked in the community, and this is one of the things that also kind of concerns me, is just research when we're looking at these issues. Let me pull this off the screen for a second here. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 has been emulated on Android and on lower performing hardware for the past, I want to say 5 to 7 years. So what you're looking at right now, and anybody could do a basic Google search, and you could just look up Marvel vs. Capcom 2 on Android. And this is a video by a gentleman. This was uploaded 4 years ago, and he's doing an install tutorial on how to run Marvel vs. Capcom 2 on Android. Now, I do believe this is this, I'm not sure which cell phone this is, but I've seen some guys do it on the Samsung Galaxy. And so some of the questions that were asked was, you know, is the hardware sufficient enough to run Marvel vs. Capcom 2? The obvious answer is yes, but one of the things that they aren't really telling you is that the emulator has issues on Android. And I forgot to even mention to you guys previously, the videos that you guys have seen me running Marvel vs. Capcom 2, that's been on either Redream or Rycast. In fact, I don't even know too many people that use Flycast or Flycast Dojo unless they're using it for PC. But as far as hardware, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 has ran on subpar hardware now for about the past 5 to 7 years. So I said all that to say this, is that there's some other difficulties that they're having that they're not willing to disclose. And it's definitely not a good sign. So I'll just fast forward this so you guys can get into some little gameplay. I think this one here stutters just a little bit, but there are some other ones that definitely do run a lot better with optimization. Yeah, let me pull up another one. This is another video clip. This is 32-bit bits on iOS. This was done 5 years ago. And again, you guys can search for all of this. This was about 7 years ago. And obviously it runs much better than it does now. You can have with RetroPie and Raspberry Pi. Here's another one. This guy's using his Samsung cell phone. Oh, that's cool to know. See, I never ran it or aware that it ran on the iPad. Damien, which iPad was that? So the unit that Arcade1up is using is a board that's very similar to the Orange Pi. I believe it has like 8 gigs of RAM on there. I can't remember some of the other specs. I think I mentioned it in the previous video. But the hardware that they have definitely can run the game. But the issue is optimization with the Flycast emulator, which is virtually brand new. If you guys are familiar with Flycast and Flycast Dojo, Flycast is a branch off of Rycast. It's only been available for about 2 years, and in my personal opinion, if you're releasing something to the public and the emulator has only been out for 2 years, it's technically still in this experimental stage because there's not a lot of people to really play it, give you feedback as to how it would run on different front ends. I don't know of anybody currently even using Flycast on Android other than Arcade1up. I know most of you guys use it for Fightcade, but that's PC, and it's a totally different architecture. I've gone into that as well. But with this kind of stuff, you just can't slap an emulator on any type of front end and believe that it's just going to work without having any type of issues. But again, this video was posted back in... this was 7 years ago. So as you can see, Arcade1up should definitely be way ahead of this curve when this is just running on a basic cell phone. Here, let me turn the volume up so you guys can hear it. Audio's intact. There's no issues there. So again, those are all videos from 5 to 7 years ago, running it on Android. And, you know, I've had Marvel vs. Capcom 2 run myself. But, you know, the only reason why I'm pointing this out is because some of you have asked, can the hardware run it? But they don't point you to any of successful videos that have emulated this properly. And so Flycast running on Android, there are some issues right now. They aren't willing to disclose any of that kind of stuff because they don't want you to worry. Now, I would speak out a little bit more as far as what's running on Blitz, but unfortunately, I don't know what emulator they're using to run it. No, they don't need a PC upgrade. In fact, Justin Wong alluded to that yesterday when he said that they turned down some settings. And that's actually one of the things that you would typically do if you're a new image maker is, you know, you turn up the overclock. In fact, here, do I have it in front of me? I want to show you guys something. So typically one of the first things you do when you're making a retropie image or image in general, if you're working on the SBC, is, let me turn this off because I want you guys to see it. There we go. You turn up the overclock and you also turn up the voltage. Now, many of you complained and said you needed a fan. It was getting too hot. That's one of the settings that would actually cause it to run hotter than normal, is if the over voltage is up too high or if you're overclocking too high. So down here at the very bottom, these are settings for retropie. So my GPU on some settings on my board are set to 600 for GPU. Over voltage, I think some boards may be 7, 8, or 9, or 10, but my voltage is set to 6. And then, of course, the overclock right now is 2000. I think RetroPie or the Pi 4 does about, what, 22, 2300, something like that. But anyway, I'm just trying to give you an idea about some of the settings that they would have to adjust as far as optimization. But Justin Wong alluded to the fact that they had to turn down some CPU cycles. I don't know exactly what he's talking about that hand, but he's probably talking about the overclock here. And so this is what would cause your board to run hotter than normal. Now, typically, as long as you have a heat sink on it, you're fine. But this would also wear out the life of your board. So yesterday when he was alluding to the fact that they turned down some settings, this is what they would have had to turn down. Something equivalent to something like this. Either the over voltage or the overclock, which would be here. Again, they are using a different type of single board computer, but it's relatively the same thing. So no, they don't need to have a PCB upgrade. It's all about image optimization and running things correctly.
YouTube videos that you guys put out there, and you know we know a lot of the issues that we have seen. They are written up. They are being worked on. And some good news is that NFL Blitz, we are currently on a online testing build at this moment. So that means NFL Blitz Online might be coming soon. Bad YouTube videos about us, right? That's what it comes down to. But we want to make sure we have the best products out there for you, and that's what we do.
I just wanted to fast forward some of that because we already heard that.
Oh, John, I think you're on mute right now.
Yeah, you know, Justin Wong. So hardware is not the issue. We actually lowered the CPU's usage.
So that's what he's alluding to. He said they did lower the CPU settings. He's probably talking about the voltage and the overclock.
On the latest build from our Capcom 2 that improves input lag. And because of that, it's already running a lot better. So, yeah, I don't think hardware is an issue.
See, all this stuff that they're talking about that they're tweaking and having to change, this never had to happen. In fact, I've made videos on this stuff 3 years ago, that you didn't have to overclock to run a lot of these games. But, you know, it's really unfortunate that they're using the community as beta testers and guinea pigs to stumble across some of the same deficiency errors that they can't, they're playing around with this. This is all an experimental stage for them. This is stuff that you didn't have to be put in this position to wait for them to fix. This should have been fixed before release. They should have known this before release. And, you know, the other thing that I still question is if online isn't ready and is not ready to go, then what was John D trying to plug into at Evo? And he commented on that in one of my videos because he was like, oh, yeah, well, even as con, like we tried to hook it up to the internet, nothing would work. Well, then what were they trying to access if the internet is, or the net play is still not up and running? You know, Twisted, I totally have to agree. You know, and unfortunately, I'm going to give Arcade1up a pass on some of this because, you know, as we as content creators, journalists, we're supposed to be researchers. You know, before you have somebody on your channel, if you're talking about your favorite game or you're getting ready to ask some questions, you have to be knowledgeable about this stuff, you know, and if you're not going to be knowledgeable, then Google is your friend. You have plenty of forums, you have plenty of groups, you have obviously YouTube. Now, for those of you not familiar, I Googled, you know, because I could have pulled this up myself. I actually plan on doing a test just to see how Flycast 2 or Flycast Dojo runs on the Pi 4. You could download it yourself to any Pi image or Odroid and run it and see if you come across the same errors. But was worrying is that you do have content creators asking some of these questions that could be very easily found on YouTube. You know, in terms of what are the same type of specs Arcade1up is using. I just pulled it up for you. How long ago has Marvel vs. Capcom 2 been ran on something very similar or on an Android-based OS or even iOS? And how did it perform? How did it run? And so, you know, we still have questions with, you know, and they're fine. You know, is the hardware capable enough to run it? And the answer is yes. In fact, I've put out videos on it. We have videos of all the guys that are in the retro GPI case group running Marvel vs. Capcom 2 using the Pi for the Pi CM4 board. So we have to be knowledgeable about these things before we start asking questions that we technically should already know. So yeah, I totally agree with you. You know, a lot of people are making videos saying you need to put fans on PCBs and stuff, but if you don't understand these other technicalities that make up the image, you could be talking to somebody and an answer will go right over your head. So let's listen to a little bit of what David McIntosh has to say, and I'll comment on this.
Issue based off that answer.
Okay, it's interesting. Why hasn't there been more communication regarding questions about Blitz and MVC2? This is embarrassing. Come on, do better, Arcade1up. I'm gonna give this one to. I'm gonna give it to Liv.
No.
I'm giving it to Liv. You gave me control.
I landed that role in with Lucas. It's been a big deal.
Yeah, let me fast forward this a little bit.
I'm just trying to get back to me for this community. Yeah.
I cut out a lot of the other nonsense that I didn't want to cover, so that way we can kind of get to the meat of the circumstances.
Is it taking so long for online play to be implemented?
Right. I mean, like, the reality is, if we could push a button right now and make it go live, we would. And frankly, like, that button exists. It's just a subpar experience. And we've just...
Well, at least he's honest. He's telling you right now that at the time they were advertising this to have Wi-Fi, they knew it was a subpar experience. They knew it would not be available.
Decided that it's worthwhile doing it right one time than putting it out there and having a really crappy user experience, because it's not ready. And is this part of our plan? No. Were we hoping that when it shipped it had it? Yes. 6
to 8 months is my expectation, and that was 3 weeks ago. So, you know, it still fits within that time frame that I knew that they probably won't have this ready for another 6 to 8 months, especially Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And as a side note, you know, I've met David McIntosh and I've met John D. You know, they're nice guys that, you know, talk to when I've been, you know, at the conventions at E3 and then also CES. But this whole format should have been addressed differently. You know, it should have been a little bit more professional, considering people have spent their money and they're awaiting answers, and there's still things that they still won't tell them.
Will we try to improve this for future launches? Of course. This is not the user experience we strive for, and frankly, there are ways to get around this in terms of forward communication at a launch, roadmaps for DLC, which includes online gameplay as part of a launch strategy, and we're looking at all of those things. Just so you guys don't feel like we're, you know, there's any devil in the details, if you will. So, like, lesson learned, I'm reading all the comments, and I'm actually kind of laughing at some of them. You know, saying something without saying anything was one that resonated with me. We're not trying to be in that position. It could be, you know, I'm not going to commit to any timelines, but it could be very, very.
Yeah, this is all bad. You know, this is all bad. People committed their money. They can't commit to a timeline for something that was advertised, and you have no idea. Here's how bad it is. They can't even tell you it's next week. They can't even tell you if it's going to be next year or within a year. I know Console Kits was pressing for an answer. I can tell you, working with devs in the community with retro gaming, we've always been able to give you an estimated timeline. Always. 3 months, 4 months, 6. Again, I've made videos in the past where people have said, oh, well, Keo, you need to stop teasing or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And the reason why I did that is because I wanted to give you guys transparency as to the process, the things that it goes across. And if you guys who are in RetroPie Official and some of the other groups that I run, you guys have seen this timeline. And from working on a ready-made image, optimizing ROMs, you figure it is about 2 to 3, maybe, 4 or 5 months roughly, to make sure everything's running correctly and before there's updates that are also released. Now, I know they're in a different boat, but keep in mind, we're hobbyists. We have free time to dedicate to a lot of these projects. I know there have been talks that the company is willing to put money into this project. There's no amount of money that Arcade1up or Tastemakers has that's going to surpass the manpower and the knowledge of the retro gaming community. That's just not going to happen. We're willing to work, because this is a hobby for us, on the weekends, holidays. This is stuff we do for fun. They're doing this in a paid status. Nobody works for free. And so, again, working with this emulator in Android, in my personal opinion and experience, this is all experimental. If this was an emulator that had been ran by the public for at least 10 to 15 years, and they had years of research and data analytics to make sure that it's a well-oiled machine prior to even using this, no, they don't have that. Like when they've ran some of the other games that they've released on Arcade1up that were MAME has been tested, true, and tried for a number of years. It wasn't 2 years old and then tossed the emulator into a lot of these machines and so that they could run. I mean, it was used by the community. And so there was years of research and years of feedback. They don't have that. Again, Flycast is only 2 years old, and as far as I know, really hasn't been ran on Android.
Very soon that we get Blitz Live, and then soon after MVC2. So we're working diligently on this. I promise.
Go on a limb and ask this question, David. Are we talking days, weeks, months, years?
I don't want to commit to a timeline because then we're going to find ourselves on a stream like this very shortly where we either are going to be like, yes, it's live, or no, it's not. And I just don't want to mislead or make any false promises.
While I have you, I have another question for you. I've heard a lot of people talk about this. This is my question. I heard a lot of people talk about how, why are you releasing KI Pro? You should be spending all those resources on fixing the products that you have in market that are, frankly, unfinished. So, can you explain how the process works? Are you delegating? Who's responsible for delegating these resources, and can you do better with that, or how does it all work?
Judd, you want to take this one?
A lot of pressure. There's a lot of testing that.
Yeah, I'm gonna pause it right here. I'm really glad that kind of question was asked, but one of the other things I picked up from this video was that they had to hire multiple different dev teams. I'm not sure if that was between the 2 different games or if it was between one game. If they had to hire 2 or 3 different devs to see if they could get Marvel vs. Capcom 2 running correctly and then having it run correctly online. This is all experimental to them. They're figuring it out as they go along while they have your money. This should have been beta tested before. They have to run different tests. I know Rexer mentioned it as well. Let me see. Did he put in the? Yeah, I forgot. Sorry about that, Rexer. Yeah, Rexer says they better be testing with about 50 megabytes down and about 5 ups. People on 100 megabytes down to 10 up, it will be cut in half on Wi-Fi. Very true. You're not just testing the game. You also have to test different Wi-Fi aspects. And if before I forget too, remember when they did that NFL Blitz promo, Justin Wong said that they didn't have enough units to even test the online experience. They didn't even have enough working models themselves. So, but they're playing around with it. But again, your warranty and your 30-day, 15-day return policy is slowly expiring. Fortunately for a lot of people right now, a lot of these units are purchased into the Christmas season. Usually it's after October 1st. You usually have until January 14th or January 31st to return these items to a lot of stores if you're not happy. And that is your right. But at the same time, you're supposed to have a fully working product in your grasp, as advertised, working accordingly to find out if you've made a good decision with your purchase or not. So we'll go ahead and finish this.
Has to be done.
It's a lot of testing. I think what really does help is that we do have a beta tester program where David set up, and they also help with a good amount of testing. So when it comes down to like needing people to play online with to get like their eyes and their experiences, they're able to give us their feedback as well too. And they have been playing on the latest builds that we've been working on for NFL Blitz and Marvel 2 as well too. So I think we're going to be in good hands, especially the fact that we are giving them a chance to check out the updates, see if we need some last minute changes. And
I did, before I forget too, remember not Justin Wong, but John D came on my video and said, "Oh, I'm not worried. We got Justin Wong and F-Champ testing this, and that was an old build, but the day one patch, everything's taken care of." Well, where's that day one patch, John D? Where's the day one patch? And none of the issues that were present in that other video that I did with Justin Wong where he was stuttering, none of them have been erased. They're all still there. And so there was also some other content creators, saying that there's no problem with Magneto or Sentinel freezing. But now they're the same ones crying and complaining about the online lag and the deficiencies of the game when they were making light of the whole issue. And, things like that definitely don't help the community when people are pointing things out and they're not familiar with the issues themselves.
What else can you ask for when you ask the community to help as well too?
Very cool. Well, we just
and Wolf knows, I'm sure you can attest to this too. This is something that we keep seeing being tossed around callously, is companies that are selling retro gaming products, cabinets like this, they're looking to the community to bail them out and help them out. Arcade1up isn't the only one, the only culprit out there. There's some others that are releasing retro gaming products and later on claiming it is a community-based project. But hey, it is what it is. Let's go ahead and see what they had to say here.
Cleared 500.
All right. So that's the end of that clip that I had there to show. I do have another one here. Give me a second. But yeah, I mean, these games can run on Android. But the one thing they're definitely not discussing is the optimization of Flycast and Flycast Dojo. How new is it? What issues have they ran into it in terms of getting it to run on a single board computer interface that they haven't really experienced before? And, ironically, they've been kind of scouting the coattails for the past few years, because all the games that they've released prior to this have ran perfectly fine on a cell phone or some other type of low-end spec board. This is the first time where they've been challenged with actually putting in work into the actual emulation of a game. Yeah, that's true. I mean, these machines are $600. I mean, if they were 100, 150, they would still be tempting. Twisted Gaming, yeah, great machines for what they are, but I don't agree on the price anymore. You're paying $600 to $1,000 for something that you can go out and buy the real arcade machine, or you can head on down over to your local Micro Center, go grab a cabinet for about $250, slap your own front end in there, and call it a day, and then go put your own stickers on it for the same price. Actually, a lot lower than that, because my cabinet I have behind me is 700. Actually, no, it was like 650 or whatever. And it comes with a 27-inch monitor that's 1 millisecond. It is an it's an IPS monitor, AMD FreeSync, and it's 27 inches. And they're both, the Arcade1up and this cabinet is listed at 3/4 scale. And it comes with hap buttons, hap sticks, real wood, real quality. And so, you know, don't get me wrong, a lot of the Arcade1ups look nice, but if the emulation isn't there, you know, I have all these games, and many of you already have these games, whether you have them through Steam or whether you can just put your console into an arcade cabinet and have that form. You already have that online experience. And so, you know, I know that they think that they've done a lot of things that are new or different, but they really haven't. I mean, the only game that they've released that's pretty much brand new has been NFL Blitz, because Blitz has been re-released, and then maybe, of course, like Terminator 2. That one's a little different. But Marvel vs. Capcom 2 with online play, I know a few weeks ago he made that announcement saying, oh, you know, a lot of these games aren't meant to run online. That's not true. Every game that they've released has already been done before with some type of online play. And like even Ninja Turtles is seeing its third different version of its online release with its online play. So there's just a lot of misinformation that's being put out there, a lot of FOMO. And, you know, again, you know, content creators too, they have their diligence to be informed about a lot of these things when presenting these to their subscriber base, and then also putting out information. Because how accurate are you going to be reporting something or talking about something if you're not familiar with these situations? Dang, Wolfenose, you got 6 pinballs? Jesus. I still want to see that one that you won. We got to get you on the stream for that one. Yeah, true. I mean, many of us could download an image or go get a ROM or something, but you're paying for something and it's still jacked up? But hell no. Nobody's putting up with any of that. I build my own or buy the real games. Might as well. Especially if you're in California where you could go get Killer Instinct for like $200 or $300. I'm talking about the authentic one. I know you guys have it rough out there in Texas. You got to have your shanks to go get a real decent arcade cabinet. Deadpool and Jurassic Park, as far as just a few games go. I'm waiting for at the home ports for next gen MVC2 and Blitz. So ironically, what's funny is, you know, that time frame. I have a feeling, and I'm about 95% certain that Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is coming out to the next gen consoles. And you know, when I did that video at I think it was at end of August, beginning of September. You know, we said, well, let's see how I think it was Super Dimensional said, let's see how this video holds up in the next 6 months. And, you know, ironically, 6 months comes out to around E3. I'm sorry. Yeah, E3. It'll be around June or so. So we'll see if we get an announcement for Marvel vs. Capcom 2 around June of 2023. Jesus, you still haven't opened that one yet? Oh, man. If you guys didn't know, Wolfenose won a arcade machine for I think it was an entry or something. Oh no, not an arcade machine, but he won a pinball machine, which is pretty cool. I still want to see it. I don't know what they're talking about in terms of a DLC. I just know that they did say something about DLC, but I don't know why they're talking about DLC when this is an Xbox and is not PlayStation, and they're struggling just trying to get some of the bare minimum working with some of these games. Yeah, 2K for Killer Instinct. Yeah, you guys have it rough out there. It'll be cheaper for me to mail you one. Hey, Wolfenose, are you at home? Or are you planning on jumping on? But yeah, guys, definitely wanted to give you my insights on this whole situation. There are a lot of questions that obviously weren't discussed, some things that went over the head of some people. You know, if you're not familiar with the emulation, I definitely understand it. But everything that they're trying to do, with the exception of online, has been done by the majority of users in the single board gaming community. Optimization, overclock, voltage. They're telling you they're correcting issues that they could have watched a video on 3 years ago, and they wouldn't have had to go through some of the same things. You know, and again, if you're not using, you just can't grab an emulator and say something's going to work with on an interface. It may work on PC, but it doesn't work that way on a single board computer. It may not even like it. But again, I definitely want to stress that, you know, when I've done my tutorials and even when I've talked to you guys about how I've had Marvel vs. Capcom 2 running and even some of the harder games, I wasn't using Flycast. I totally forgot to mention that. Everybody's using Redream and or Rycast. And, you know, the other point that I definitely want to make mention of is that you know, if you're okay with the offline version, because I've seen some people say they're okay with the offline version for Arcade1up or for Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and let's say they never instituted online, then they still would have been better off just using Redream, because Redream is a much better emulator than Flycast. Some people say DLC for MVC2. I'm like, aren't all the fighters unlocked? Yeah, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 never had any DLC. I mean, unless you're planning on unlocking some avatars or some pictures or some behind-the-scenes videos or photos or something, then no. But if you guys have, like most of the videos, you guys could search on your own. They're using Redream to run Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And this was going back on some of the cell phones 5 and 7 years ago. The Flycast obviously wasn't out, but it's a brand new emulator. This is an experiment. Nobody may come out and physically say that it's an experiment, but 2 years old in the retro gaming community, that's not on a commercial level, that's new. I'll even give you guys this. When we released Supreme Ultra, I was probably the only one really testing that video marquee script. And, you know, we knew it worked, but I let it ran for about, again, I think about 2 or 3 days. Before it went public, that was the full release or the full extent of it being tested. And so even in that, you know, looking at it that way, to me, let's say if that was being sold on a commercial level or just out there, it was still experimental because, you know, you didn't have hundreds or thousands of people fully testing it, you know, for hours on end to really give you some good data and the good numbers. And you know, that's why they did that beta for like not Marvel, but Modern Warfare 2, the one that just came out, because you're getting numbers and data from people actually playing the game. And so essentially that's what Arcade1up is doing, but you've already paid for the machine and you're exhausting your return policy. Yeah, you could go up to 4K as well on the Redream. But you can't do it on the Pi, but I know you could definitely do it on the PC. And that's what I think a lot of home arcade modders use too, as they use Redream as well. Yeah, it's much better optimized. I would have honestly rather for them to have worked with Redream, because we know that it works in that regard. But again, the only problem with Redream is that it doesn't have online capability. And it doesn't support light guns either. And the team is really cool to work with. But again, it's not open source. And, you know, that's another thing to mention as well, is that the Redream, not the Redream, but the Flycast Dojo emulator, you know, that's community-based work. That's open to the public. That's, you know, like if you were part of the Flycast team or whatever, imagine them using your work, which is obviously, you know, okay. But that's work that the community put in and then now is being resold to consumers. Yeah, Wolfenos, I think I lowered the RAS to about 480 to get the best solution on that. I mean, the Redream emulator I left at about 720p, but the overall specs for the emulator, I've reduced it down to 480. And so, you know, they're not at the liberty, Arcade1up is not at the liberty to turn down the video settings because they're stuck to that resolution because of the BOE monitor to make sure that it looks nice and crisp on that screen. So that's something else that would give you better optimization without stuttering and causing issues if they would turn down the video resolution, but they can't do that because they're stuck with that particular resolution due to the display visibility with the settings. Yeah, I mean, I do think that they can get online running. Well, obviously, first of all, they do have it online working because obviously David said that it was just a subpar experiment. But, you know, again, you know, we're not talking about running it, you know, we're talking about running it correctly. No, you know, I was being nice. I'm giving them 6 to 8 months, you know, based on this time frame. And so, but other devs I've talked to in the community said maybe a year or maybe if not ever. And that's the reason why they don't want to talk too much about it is because it's not looking too good. If it was looking really great, you know, then they would give you a more of a positive answer or a positive response as far as an estimated timeline. Or at least say, hey, you know, in a month from now, we're going to release this patch. You know, that's definitely going to fix these issues. 2 months from then, you know, we're going to wait, you know, to get back data from that patch, and then we'll release another one. They didn't give any answers yesterday in terms of timelines of how they would even address patches or when they would release those patches for known issues. So that's another concerning detail. Yeah, true. Bo knows Tecmo. What's going on, Bo? Yes, Redream is a way better, especially on lower end hardware. It is. I mean, we've used it since 2019, but I don't know. It's like you think that you would have all this stuff planned out before you even get the license for a game. I mean, it's more or less like they're just trying to get some license just to see what they could screw up next. And then, you know, John D was stuttering in the corner most of the stream, leaving other folks to swim. You know, and he has a bad habit with that kind of stuff. You know, I don't get it. I mean, he has a habit of obviously commenting on stuff that he's not fully aware of. Then he comes back and wants to apologize. But again, how do you get a license for something you're not sure if it can run? And then you're telling people on a live stream you're going to give information in the next few weeks about the development process, and people are spending their money in the store. I don't get it. There's a serious problem there. They really need to spend the money on an actual developer to port the games and optimize their hardware. I truly agree. And then they wouldn't have any issues. You know, and then they always, you know, disappear. But I think the thing for me is, you know, is like a cockiness attitude about the whole situation. You know, when you're going on people's videos, you're leaving comments, telling people you're not concerned, and then you just disappear with no answers. Then it's like, what was the point? I mean, you can't help from not getting called out when you're purposely going on videos, acting like you're informed about something, and then it just falls on your face. And he's not the only one. There's other content creators doing the same, you know, exact thing, you know. And this is why you have to be educated and informed yourself about this stuff and not just take somebody's word for it. You know, we've been doing this for quite some time, and I have a ton of hours optimizing ROM. In fact, if you guys didn't know this, I've gone through every arcade ROM at least 3 times, especially for retropie, to get a better understanding of how a lot of this stuff works. And some of you guys may not be aware of that, But that's what I had to do in order to create a ROM set for the Pi 4. Somebody has to go through there and see what works and what doesn't, and what ROM you need to associate with the proper emulator. I think John was in the hot box with One Up. They sat him down and told him to chill. You know, that's very true, Damien. He wouldn't do that if his information was right. Yeah. Yeah, there would be no need to sit him down if his information was correct. Yeah, David McIntosh, we've met a few times. If you guys go back and watch the CES 2019 video, he was the one walking around the booth with me. He's a cool guy. And then I saw him at E3 2019 as well. He had a nice business suit on, looking very professional. He had a nice combination on. I think it was a silver suit. He was looking all nice and spiffy. Real nice professional. I just wish we would see a little bit more than that coming from a company. David McIntosh has a college kid attitude, trolling people over major concerns while they're putting out a pro game with games with major problems they're not addressing ASAP. Yes, they did, Bonos. They did bite off a little bit more they can chew. That's why I felt it was imperative for somebody like myself to speak out about this. We need more devs and image makers and people who actually spend time with emulation. Not PC. I'm not talking about you guys out there that download ROMs on PC and then get it to work. I'm talking about actual people that who are in the community that work with emulation, work with optimization, devs, people who make scripts, make images, speaking out on situations like this, because you guys all know the stuff, and this is the stuff that Arcade1up doesn't want you to know. This is a lot of information that's also shared with me as far as Flycast having deficiencies with Android, and that's why they're having a problem. And that's the thing they won't tell you. You know, Justin Wong answered, I think it was, he answered console kits and said, no, it's not a hardware issue. But he's not going to go out of his way and tell you that it's an emulator issue that we're struggling trying to figure it out. He won't tell you that. This will be the downfall for One Up. Trust is gone at this point on the newer games. They need to stick to Pac-Man. Very much so. But you know what? It wouldn't be so bad if they wouldn't try to hype up some of this stuff as it's going to be the latest. Like it's another Nintendo or Xbox unit coming out, and you're going to have fighting game competitions, and they can't even get some of the basics right. Yeah, exactly. See, we spend months and years figuring this stuff out. So now they're going to hire some third-party dealers to figure this out and fly by night and hopefully get it right in a few weeks. You guys, no. That's why we're trying to set the proper expectation for you and tell you 6 to 8 months is reasonable. And they're hiring teams that are not hobbyists, all right? They're hiring teams, you know, unless it's Code Mystics and I'm familiar with their work and everything. But in situations like this, they're going to fix it and then try to be done. Whereas you have hobbyists like myself, Wolfenos, and many others, where this is what we do. This is what, even once something is done, you're still researching on how to improve your skills and make it better. A paid company doesn't have this amount of money and resources to really tackle on the issue. They're going to fix it, and as soon as Arcade1up says, okay, yeah, it's good enough, they're going to be done. Yeah, I heard T2 was really bad, and ironically, that was one of the harder games to run too, because I have a list of ROMs, arcade ROMs, you really need to pay attention to when associating them with a ROM or an emulator. Here, let me give you guys some gameplay of Xbox really quickly. Yeah, you won't see any stuttering or anything here. This was a few weeks ago. I was playing this. Yeah, very true, Wolfos. I definitely agree. All right, well, I definitely want to thank all of you guys for tuning in today and try to keep this as short as possible. I believe all of my points, or main talking points, were mentioned here on the stream. I know it's a Saturday. I know a lot of you guys are busy and out spending time with family, maybe doing your Halloween thing or whatever. But this definitely needs to be addressed. Other than the Xbox version is the best screen stream. Yeah, we want to make sure that you're getting information and not a little bit of fluff. And it would help, you know, just in closing, Arcade1up needs to do a lot better. This is misleading, false advertisement. They shouldn't be using the community as guinea pigs or beta testers. If you're a beta tester, then you ought to be getting 70% off, whatever the case might be. And aside from that, you know, as well, they need to give a little bit more disclosures, you know, ahead of time. And it would really help too if content creators would do some homework to hold them to the standard when they're asking them questions. And that way they're not allowing them to talk over their head if they give an answer, and they could call them out on it. Because there was many times in that stream where Console Kits was asking them questions, and, you know, I mean, again, I know it's their stream and they're not, you know, they don't have to answer, whatever the case might be. But just in the grand scheme of things, if somebody's giving you an answer and you're informed about it, you got to ask a follow-up question, because it says a little bit more about what they are doing or what they're trying to conceal. So those are just my viewpoints on that. But with that being said, I will catch you guys later. You guys all have a great day. I'll probably be back a little bit later, maybe get an online chat with some of you other people out there in the community. And we'll address that going forward. But you guys all have a great day, and I'll catch you later. Peace.